Hi, and welcome everybody to the Ottawa Board of Trade's fourth installment of the roundtables with community leaders. These community leaders happen to also be running for council, and we're very appreciative and very proud to have so many here with us today, all from Western-ish, in some cases, wards here in the city, from Ward 23, Ward 4, Ward 8, and Ward 6. We have some candidates here with us today. Before we get over to the candidates, I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves in just a moment. But I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Rick Chase. I'm a volunteer with the Ottawa Board of Trade, volunteer from with the advocacy committee that's been put together, not just for this election, but our advocacy committee does a lot of work with the provincial government, sometimes the federal government, but certainly our main mandate is to work closely with the city of Ottawa and our council and mayor. We are from an advocacy point of view, or if I take a step back and just talk about the Board of Trade for a moment, the Board of Trade is a not-for-profit, nonpartisan organization that's membership driven. So that those members come together and they have an expectation of member-to-member networking, of course, member-to-member benefits as to why they kind of would come together in the same organization. They also come to the organization for education sometimes, and but many come to the organization for advocacy, right? If you can picture a typical small business, where that small business owner is probably in their business 7 days a week and is mentally at least in the business 365 days a year and 24 hours a day, the opportunity, let's say, to get to a council meeting and talk about something that's happening that's affecting them is very challenging. And it just doesn't happen. So the opportunity to be able to share concerns and kind of pool concerns with other business owners at all levels of business inside the Board of Trade, and for the Board of Trade to be the voice of those businesses is truly one of the biggest mandates that the Board of Trade has. Board of Trade also does a really effective job of rallying volunteers from the business community who might have some capacity. I'm an example of that, and somehow find myself intertwined quite a bit with the Board of Trade, but I'm very passionate about how the business community can, and many of our volunteers are very passionate about how the business community, if we put kind of how the business community and the tax generated by the business community and what that can do for our city, which in turn, what that does back for the business community and this symbiotic relationship that we have creates a lot of passion for a lot of the volunteers who do get involved with the Board of Trade for various different issues. So this specific election, the Ottawa Board of Trade is calling on City Council, and I'm using the words of our CEO, Su-Ling Ching, who said, we're really calling for radical collaboration. And I thought those are strong words, but what does that really mean, right? Looking to the next City Council, looking to the mayor, to really be forward thinking. We have some short-term things that need to be thought of. There's some sectors that have been really hard hit from a business perspective, and they need some help. But beyond that, forward thinking. So whether it's funding really smart transit and infrastructure, fostering innovation, thinking about kind of the growth and the future of the city. Of course, your individual wards are really important, but we're really asking council to, when it comes to citywide issues, to really be working together on those issues. And we've seen some examples of that. I think we sometimes we've been pretty hard on the last council in some cases, but we've seen directly at the Board of Trade when that collaboration happens, it's very, very powerful. And so we're calling on the next council to be even more collaborative. Su-Ling's words again, we're trying to create an affordable, inclusive, sustainable, and world-class city. And we really believe that it's possible. We have a campaign called buildupottawa.ca, and we encourage anybody watching here this video to look at the 5 key priorities through buildupottawa.ca. And if something resonates, share it out, right? We're only as powerful as the organic ability of our message to get outbound. So without further ado, though, we have some council candidates here on the line with us today, and they've given up a bit of their time to be here with us, and we're so appreciative that they've done so, because there's only a few days left, and there's probably a million things on the to-do list. So on behalf of the business community, we want to extend a very warm welcome and a very heartfelt thank you that you've given us a bit of your time here today. And we are excited to welcome you here to the table. What we'll do first is I'd love to just go around the table and give everyone about 1 minute, soft 1 minute. I'm a volunteer moderator, right? So I'm not going to be that hard on you, but let's be respectful. And I'll use a little randomizer here that I downloaded that I think is cool. It's probably completely unnecessary, but that way we get everybody in kind of a random order. After you've had a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about why you're running for council, then I have a question, maybe 2 questions back for the group as well, depending on time. So let's start things off with randomizer activated from Ward 4, Canada North, Christine Molison. Christine, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your priorities and why you're running.
So thank you so much for inviting me to the meeting. I really appreciate that. So I was born and raised in the city of Ottawa, have been here my whole life. I grew up with a father who was a small business owner my whole childhood. So that makes me feel a little more tied into this sort of idea in this group. And I completely understand the impact that being a business owner has on families, has on kiddos within that family, and also has on the adults that are running those businesses, having seen it and lived it. I've been in Ward 4 since 2008. I really want to be the voice that I think Canada North needs. I see the changes we're making in Canada North. I see what we're doing in the tech park. I see the things that we can do for green space here. And I really want to be that voice and that representation. I've done it for a long time on different levels, and I really look forward to being hopefully elected on Monday and being able to do that, and also having that experience talk about business in the city of Ottawa too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Bina Shaw from Ward 23, Canada South. Bina, over to you.
Great. Thank you again to the Ottawa Board of Trade for hosting us today with this roundtable. I've lived in Canada for most of my life, Canada South. I grew up here, went to school here, all the way from kindergarten to high school and beyond. I went to Carleton and earned a degree there. After that, I earned an education degree in Toronto and returned back to Ottawa to be serving the community here in Ottawa, various communities for over 22 years, teaching mathematics and science at the high school level. And, I see democracy certainly at play. I love to see all the candidates out there, but I also think when we talk about democracy, when we talk about the council table, having a variety of representation at the table is really critical. I too have owned a small business. When I was in high school, I started a tutoring company and hired a number of people as well. I know that it is the backbone of any city, any community, to have strong business that can continue to contribute to the community. And as we talk about that symbiotic relationship, the community contributing to the business, it's a wonderful thing. I know there's lots of areas for growth still in Canada South and obviously our city of Ottawa. And I look forward to working with business people, the business community, and the backbone of our community, the business people, to make sure we can do the best. So affordable housing is certainly top of mind for me, as well as making sure that we continue to grow the transit system that we need to make sure it's first class in the city that we're living in. So again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate being here today.
Thank you very much. Over to Kevin Hua from Ward 6 in Stittsville.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to thank the Board of Trade again for hosting this meeting. My name is Kevin Hua. I'm one of the city councillor candidates in Stittsville Ward 6. I'm a Carleton student studying public affairs and policy management with a specialization in social policy. I've worked in the public service for the Ottawa Catholic School Board's Indigenous and International Languages program, and I've also volunteered with the organization Around the Campfire that gives a socialization group for kids with mental and developmental disabilities, and I've also served as a federal candidate for my community twice. The big reason why I'm running in this election is, as Rick said, there's been a lot of dysfunction and stagnation at City Council. And the big thing that we need back is collaboration between city councilors to build stronger communities, to build our local economies, and to support residents in their needs and interests. And so the big thing for me is working alongside with the new city council, the new mayor that will be elected, as well as working with a variety of stakeholders within our community, including business owners and business leaders. I hope to be able to, I hope we're able to gain some good insight through this roundtable, and I look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And I see in that, and you've proven my point as to why they've asked me to not editorialize too much and not jump back and forth with any candidates. But I will turn things to next little randomizer here, Pat McGarry from Ward 8, College Ward. You might be muted, Pat.
There we go.
There you
Apologies. Thank you for having all of us today. I think it's wonderful that we're already starting to connect with other Western councillors and potential councillors from the city, because we will obviously have to work together. And I want to work together, by the way, with all councillors across the city, but we have issues specific for West that we need to be thinking of. So the reason, first of all, I am a small business owner currently. I'm fortunate to be part of a company that's almost 100 years old here in Ottawa. And I'm also fortunate to have business partners that have agreed with me that our city has some challenges right now that need to be addressed, and we feel that I can help. And the ways that I think I can help is, number one, the board of directors role of a city councillor. It's been alluded to already. We've had a lot of dysfunction at City Hall lately, and we have to do better, because we do know that outside investors that are thinking of coming to Ottawa will take a look at how our city is being operated. And if there's dysfunction, well, quite frankly, there's other places for businesses to operate. And then at the ward level, as my business is a funeral home, I am used to helping people at challenging times, and I've always stepped up to do that. And I also know that my board experience throughout our city at all ages, from kids to seniors, is going to be helpful as well. But I'm a proud member of the Board of Trade for many years. Our business is. I'm actually a past vice chair of the old Chamber of Commerce, and I do believe in the Build Up Ottawa 5 platforms that have been raised. I believe those as business, and I believe those as a potential councillor as well. So very excited to be bringing my skills to not only the ward, but to the city, hopefully. And very simply, we need to do better with our city. We need it to be a place where people want to live, want to work, and want to play. And that's how we will improve all of our quality of life with a successful business community. And so I will stop there for now, and look forward to the conversation. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Pat. Using the randomizer here. 2 remaining. Allan Hubley from Ward 23, Canada South. Allan Hubley, over to you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you to yourself and Su Ling and all the people at the Ottawa Board of Trade for putting this on, and for the work that you do in our community. I've been involved with the Board of Trade going back all the way to the days of the Canada Chamber of Commerce, where I was part of the Community Association network that partnered up with the Chamber to create a phone directory back then. Also was involved when it became the Western Ottawa Board of Trade, and now is the entire city Ottawa Board of Trade. I support the work that the board does. I support all our local businesses and do whatever I can to help ease their way through the bureaucracy known as the city, and to help promote their efforts in our community by sharing news of new companies and also existing companies on a regular basis. I think one of the reasons I'm running, and probably the main reason that I'm running for council, is I like to help people. And one of the benefits of this job is you help people every day. And it's always different issues, and it's different ways we can do it. Sometimes there's things that you can't help resolve, but most of the time you can. And so that's the purpose to run. And I guess we'll get into more detail about that as the time goes on. So I'll yield my time.
Thank you, Allan. And from Ward 8, Wendy Davidson. Might just be on mute, Wendy. Sorry, there we go. Let's take you off mute. Sorry, Wendy, still have you muted there. Let me try taking yourself up. There you are.
Okay.
Over to you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm very thankful for the Build Up Ottawa platforms. They're excellent, very well thought up, and I'm really excited to work some more with you guys. I've always been excited about politics. I have an honors degree in political science, and I've sat as the president on almost any board or high school, public school, my church, lots of different things. But this specifically, and why I definitely wanted to make some time, to your point, Rick, it's kind of crazy at these last few days, but is that I grew up in a family that had both of my parents own their own small businesses. And when I graduated from university, I worked for many small businesses, and then I actually worked for 18 years for a giant company, an original Fortune 100 company. And so I've had experience with the big bureaucracy, but I have sold to local businesses here in Ottawa. So local business is very near and dear to my heart. It would, it helped raise me, and then it also helped me raise my children. So it's literally my bread and butter. I was a commission sales rep. So it's very near and dear to my heart. And I really hope that I have an opportunity to work more with you guys.
Thank you very much. A few people did allude, and I probably did a poor job of talking about our Build Up Ottawa campaign. What we did was we went to our membership here throughout the city, and our membership and some of our membership's employees as well, and really asked for what were the priorities, what were the top issues, what was potentially getting in their way, and what did we think from a forward-thinking perspective would be some of the top issues that we should be bringing to the next council. And that's where those top 5 priorities came from. They are not all traditional raw business priorities. So I do encourage anybody watching this recording to take a look and take a listen to some of there's been some speakers from different sectors also talk about some of those priorities and really the impacts that they have. Some of them were shocking to me as a volunteer and relatively knowledgeable, but hearing from Ottawa tourism as an example and the impacts that tourism has directly to our tax bill as an example were I guess shouldn't have been as shocking as they were, but starting to realize, okay, we have some really fantastic advantages in this city, and from a taxpayer's perspective, we have some advantages that we don't always think of, and how do we leverage that into the future? So that's a little bit more on the Build Up Ottawa, and thank you to anyone that kind of re-mentioned that, because I'm sure I'd get a note saying, hey, you didn't talk about that enough. Okay, question for the group. Maybe take about soft 2 minutes as we go around table here to answer this question. I'll use the randomizer again so that kind of fair, bouncing around to everybody in a random order. Local small business is really at the heart of our community. It's the heart of our culture and our economy, but there's been a kind of a disproportionate impact throughout the pandemic. Restrictions in particular for small business were, not debating the necessity, but certainly also don't need to debate how there was disproportionate impact on some small businesses. So many are kind of still on life support. What can a city council do to support business growth? All right, so keeping in mind, we're talking small business here, but what can a city council do to really support business growth? And I'll repeat the question a few times throughout, just to be fair to everybody. And I'll turn on the randomizer here. Okay, just a moment. Pat McGarry, you have first shot at this one here. What can City Council do to support business growth? Take about 2 minutes. I'll give you a little warning when we're starting to run out of time. Over to you, Pat.
Okay, thank you, Rick. And there's no doubt small businesses during the pandemic had to deal with things that were new to all of us. I am a small business owner, and I was getting instructions and information that resulted in me having to do many pivots very quickly and very drastically. So I can certainly appreciate everything. And while my business was able to stay open throughout the full pandemic, although very differently, we were able to stay open. We were essential business, obviously, but I know there was other businesses, and you're perhaps alluding to the fact that there was, like a Costco that was able to stay open, but smaller mom and pop businesses were forced to be closed. And that, of course, is unfair. And one of the things that I know the Board of Trade was doing was trying to level that playing field for the many small businesses, as we all know, that are so vital to our community. So, when we look at what we can do now as the next City Council, we need to build confidence in our small businesses, and quite frankly, all businesses, but small businesses especially need help. We need to build confidence that their city councilors and their city hall is behind them and is going to be there to support them. And I know one of the things I've heard already through the Board of Trade is that, let's make what any tax increases, what they're going to be, known for the next number of years. And that will provide great confidence to all small businesses and all business owners. And it's something that I would agree makes sense to do. I also, when you talk about advocacy, things that we can do as city councilors is promote the businesses in our wards and support them. Already through this campaign, I've made sure to knock on every business that I can and stop in and say hello and thank them for their business and let them know that I will work hard for them if elected. And there was many people that told me I was wasting my time because businesses cannot vote. I disagree with that. We need to support them. And so the known tax is one, and then advocating and supporting is the other.
Thank you very much, Pat. McGarry from Ward 8. Over to Bina Shaw from Ward 23, Canada South. What can City Council do to support business growth?
Well, there's no doubt about it. They are our backbone. And again, with the support, promoting each new business that comes in. But I also think about during the pandemic, the proportionate situation that we're in. I also worked for a small business during the pandemic, and it was a grocery store. It was able to function, but again, had to pivot in a number of ways. It also got hit by the derecho and the power outage that occurred there as well. So I think about these potential upcoming events that might disrupt business and making sure that we can help them transition back and provide good supports to making sure that they can find employees that can continue on with the work. I also think when we talk about how to support their growth, things like circular economies, I look at waste and knowing that we can help them perhaps create a situation where they're working locally with other business so they don't have to spend money on items that might go into the landfill. I think specifically with the grocery store that I was working in, we had a lot of local farmers and local producers working together and using, for example, bins to recycle, and it would just be continually using those items over and over again. And so just innovative thinking like that, where we can work together, have businesses work together and help each other out and make sure we can promote those kind of ideas that have a sustainability aspect in mind as well. I also think about plastics and how the federal government has mandated, the end of single-use plastics, and how are restaurants going to be able to handle that? How are they going to be able to transition? What are they going to be able to do? And so I think as a city as well, we should be assisting those types of businesses to make sure that they can handle that kind of perhaps problem that they face. So that's a couple of small things that I've noticed, but there's no doubt about it. Promoting local business, using local business, and letting people know that there are businesses for example, in places that they may not be aware of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Over to Christine Molisson from Ward 4, which is Canada North. Christine, over to you. How does, and I should repeat the question, sorry. What can City Council do to support business growth?
So one of the things that I think is really important that Pat sort of touched on was talking about how some of the bigger businesses, especially during the pandemic, we're still allowed to run, we're still allowed to operate. We need to make sure that there's equity and equality on every level, and that includes small business, making sure that they're represented, making sure that they're being advocated for, making sure that on this level too, we can make sure they're being represented, and when they need, they've got that support from their counselor. Having talked to many small business owners here, we know that they're still struggling coming out. What can we do going forward? We, as Pat mentioned too, looking at, advocating for what tax numbers are going to be coming out. While that may not be ideal, especially since we're not going to necessarily know with inflation as that goes through the years, giving ideas ahead of time, if we can, to businesses gives them an advantage. Let's do what we can ahead of time. Let's make sure they can prepare. Let's make sure that they can prepare and know what they need to do for employees and because those are the members that are also voting, right? We're not talking just about businesses as a whole. We're talking employees too, because they're working within the ward, they're living within the ward, and we're representing them too. And it's really important to look at this business as a whole and not just as a singular entity. It's everyone within it.
Thank you very much, Christine. Over to Wendy Davidson in Ward 8, College Ward. And Wendy, I should also repeat the question. What can City Council do to support business growth?
Thank you. I think it's really important that we focus specifically on the question of what can City Council do. A lot of the things that happened specifically during the pandemic were absolutely out of the City Council's control. Who got to stay open, when, and how, a lot of that had nothing to do with us. So we need to focus on things that we actually can control. And I think one of the most important things that we can do as a City Council to help small businesses and businesses in general is to help attract good talent to the city, draw people to the city, have people coming to the city. We are going to be building a giant hospital. We're going to need people to come work at it, but we're also going to need people to open little restaurants around there and little shops around there and do all these things. So we need to attract people. We need to be a world-class city. We need to support transportation that's going to do that. We have a LRT station ready to go at the airport, but it's not connected to anything yet. So as a council, we need to make sure that we get transportation in line so that people can get to these small businesses, so that companies want to come to Ottawa and have meetings and have things here, which again supports everything around that, everything around the big conferences, everything around big festivals that we can attract, bringing in tourism. All these things help so much, and that is something that council can absolutely advocate and work towards.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Over to Allan Hubley, Ward 23, Canada South. Allan, what can City Council do to support business growth?
Thank you, Rick. One of the simplest things we can do is try to stay out of the way of businesses. Too often you hear politicians trying to tell businesses how to run their business, how to hire their employees, how to go find new business and stuff. That's not the role of politicians. And I hope the new council will be aware of that and try and stay out of the way. One of the things we can do at the council for the city that serves these businesses is to do a review of the processes. I noticed over the last year, there was a number of changes done by the planning department that really added a lot. The estimates go as high as $100,000 onto a cost of a new home. That's not helping anybody in the city. It does not do anything for affordable housing, and it does nothing for a business that wants to try to attract new employees from around the world to come to Ottawa. So those kinds of processes, we've got to go back and take another look at that. There was some things done that I think need to be undone or scaled back. I think as a city and as a level of government, we got to learn to be better listeners. As I alluded to before, sometimes levels of government are very quick to go in and tell people what to do without listening to what the issues are and how they can help. One of the things I learned, and then somebody mentioned about the 4-year predictable budgets. We've been doing that for 12 years. It does work. It provides predictability and stability. So I really hope future councils keep that policy in place for all the benefits that it has for all the residents as well as businesses. One of the things I learned as a councillor when I started talking to businesses in the community was they said, do what you can to reduce red tape, but try and make your community unique. Make it something that people want to live there. And I'm really proud to say that Canada South has been either number 1 or number 2 in the city for the past decade for places where people want to live. One of the reasons we did that is by going in and creating unique parks. We put Canada South was the first to have outdoor fitness equipment so that you didn't have to go to the gym to work out. You could actually do it in your community with your neighbors at your own speed. There's some really neat features to those parks we could talk about later. We also, for the environment, for example, we took Maplewood Park, which is bigger than the Vanier Sugar Bush with over 150 full growth maples. And we just designated it a park. So things like that help attract people to the community. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Alan. And over to Kevin Hua from Ward 6, which is Stittsville. Kevin, how does City Council support business growth? What can City Council do?
I think the biggest thing that City Council can do is building our communities to be more accessible for residents to be able to get to local businesses. I mean, throughout all our communities throughout Ottawa, we have a lot of these connectivity gaps, abruptly ending sidewalks, missing sidewalks. It's this sort of foot traffic that really generates customers, that really generates in the local economy. I mean, when the protected cycling lanes were installed on Bloor Street in Toronto, the local business there saw an increase in foot traffic and an increase in business. So it's about ensuring that residents can get there, because that's the sort of traffic that generates growth. It's about building 15-minute walkable communities so that people can access those local businesses and shops, rather than having all these big malls or Walmart or all these stores that are packed all the way away from neighborhoods, that you have to drive all the way there with these huge parking lots. It's about ensuring that we can foster the infrastructure, the services and amenities necessary to support these local businesses and be able to give them a place within our community.
Thank you very much. And so another question for the group. And again, I'll turn on my little randomizer here. Probably unnecessary. I probably should have just used a hat and pulled names out. That would have maybe been more visual than just me staring at my side screen here every now and again. Cities around the world are investing aggressively. We've been seeing this, including in Canadian cities, really aggressive kind of post-pandemic economic plans to try to attract talent. I think we've already talked a little bit about talent here today. But and I don't want to make this all about downtown. I realize your wards are west, so not just focusing on a downtown or return to office, but at a more broad level. How do we inspire confidence for investors and for entrepreneurs? So at a citywide level, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs? Turn on my little randomizer here. Wendy Davidson, Ward 8, you are first.
Great, thank you. As a council, we need to get back to the basics. We need to just do what cities were meant to do, and if we can do that, and we can do that well, we will everything else will fall into place. I truly believe that. I think that it really does boil back down to transportation. I mean, we've committed to this LRT. It will connect neighborhoods. It will connect, you know, places to the downtown, to hopefully to the airport, all of these places, all of these things. And I think that if we can do that and do that properly, people will come here. They will have the opportunity to live in different neighborhoods and not have to take their car to go places, and be proud of being, you know, being able to participate in public transportation. That's better for the environment. That's better for so many things. I also think that we have to be very mindful of our development. If we want to inspire people to come and to work here and work in our neighborhoods, we need to have, I think it's very important that we have a balance, that we have, you know, if you want to live in a single dwelling home and have a garden and take care of some grass and stuff, we need to have that as an opportunity. If you don't want to deal with that, if you want to live in a condo, we need to have those opportunities too. So we really have to look at responsible development and make sure that we keep our finger on the pulse of that. We can't just carte blanche get rid of like R1 zoning, for example. If we want to attract this great talent to our country, I think people have this idea of Canada as, you know, being space and having trees and all this. And I think we need to live up to those expectations.
Thank you very much. Kevin Hua, Ward 6 in Stittsville. Kevin, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think part of it, I mean, we had sort of talked about it before, was one of the things is the sort of reversing the trend of sort of dysfunction and stagnation we've seen at City Council, specifically working to make a more collaborative City Council. Because City Council is supposed to be a space where all these councillors representing different communities across Ottawa are coming together to bring the unique needs and interests of each of their communities and come up with mutual solutions for the entire city that benefits all. And so I think one of the big things is ensuring that there's that level of political stability, the level of engagement with residents, with relevant stakeholders, including local businesses on issues, decisions, and policies. Sorry. I think another thing, and it was mentioned before as well, is predictability, giving local businesses a level of predictability of, you know, what City Council is going to be doing, how much taxes are going to increase by. And so I think that also fits in again to that level of engagement, ensuring that we're communicative, we're responsive to local businesses, ensuring that they're aware of what decisions we're going forward with, but also that they have an input into those decisions and with their expertise and their experience as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Kevin. Over to Evan. I'll just get you to mute everybody if you don't mind, or don't mute me. Well, you can mute me. Maybe the listeners at home want me muted by this point. Over to Bina Shah, Ward 23, Canada South. Bina, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Well, I do believe there's a number of development opportunities right across the city. I think about a time growing up here in Canada South where the Hazeldean Mall and the Canada Town Centre were places to go. And they no longer are in that way that I remember them to be. And so we could make those places destinations again to come to. And so think about rezoning those and thinking about a mixed use where we can have both residential and commercial buildings there in one spot. Then I think again about, pardon me, our aging population and how there is a need certainly in Canada South for that type of development for people to live and age in place, but also have options for housing within their own communities. And that's so critical. Again, I think about my father who wants to remain in the community of Canada South, but doesn't have those options. And so I think it is an attraction for both investors and entrepreneurs to come in, show us what they can do, show us the businesses that we can support in conjunction with this option for housing. And there's no doubt that completing the light rail and making sure that we have a robust, reliable, frequent transit system in our city is critical. And finally, I think the collaboration piece and the predictability piece are certainly things that we as a council would have to demonstrate. We have to instill the trust back to the public and consequently that will translate to investors, and entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You brought back some memories there. I spent a lot of time at the Whitewater Arcade back in the Hazeldean Mall. That was pretty much my childhood. Anyway, over to, I'll get to why I'm not interacting as much as I'd like to be. Just once we close, I'll explain hopefully a little bit better. But while we keep this going, over to Christine Moulisson, who's in Ward 4, which is Canada North. Christine, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
So specifically in Canada North, we're seeing right now collaboration between provincial, municipal, and federal governments. We're seeing how we're expanding specifically here, expanding the tech hub. We're looking at what Nokia is doing, what they're bringing in. We're looking at what we can create for communities within the ward, and not just our ward, how we can expand that citywide, provincially, and how we can expand that nationwide. We have an opportunity right now in Canada North, but not only here, citywide, to be a beacon. Let's create these communities that have university classes, that have university housing, that have new businesses, that have high tech, that have all these ideas that we can bring in entrepreneurs, we can bring in investors. We have opportunity right now in the palm of our hand to expand. And we're showing that we can also display this unity. We need to do that city level too. We need to be able to do that citywide. Let's make sure that councillors west, east, central are all on board. And let's make sure we share that information so that we can make sure that this is something that we can broaden and expand, because there's so much opportunity right now being presented to us, especially when we have every level of government on board. And I think knowing that this is not just a local initiative, but it's a provincial and federal initiative too, will draw people into our city, will draw people into Ward 4, and will draw people here to Ottawa. It's an important thing to think about, and I think it's an important thing to expand on. And I think as a council, it's an important thing to sort of grasp onto and use and expand on citywide, because I think it's a great concept and a great idea. I do agree though that we do need to work on transit to make sure that even though we've got people that are living here or living in the East End that do want to get to Canada or do want to get to Orleans, we need to make sure that's easy and accessible, and we need to make sure that they are getting there in a timely manner. Being that it gets an hour and a half, 2 hours to get downtown is not okay for residents. It's not okay for employees, and it's not okay for employers, and it's not okay for entrepreneurs. That's something we're also going to need to work on as a council. But again, that idea of different levels all working together is important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Over to Pat McGarry in Ward 8, which is College Ward. Pat, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Well, for investors, we deserve as a city to be boldly proud of our history and boldly proud of the fact that we have such an educated community. We have had such success worldwide with so many companies. So still today, we have many companies that are making worldwide impacts, and we should be bragging about them and all of our businesses every day. When you look at our educational institutions, we have so many wonderful institutions right here in the nation's capital. And my goal would be to keep those great minds here, to stay here, to work here, and to build our community here. When you look at entrepreneurship, Invest Ottawa, what a fantastic idea that was. And when you look at the return on investment for the dollars that are put into that organization, it is phenomenal. And we need to be thinking like that as city councillors. We need to be thinking, okay, we have only so many dollars to spend. What is going to be the biggest ROI on that? And part of the benefit of helping within our community, the business community, to expand is those monies get recirculated within our community. So, the more businesses we have, the more jobs we're going to have. The more jobs we have, the more people are going to be spending at restaurants, the more tax base we are going to have as a city. So it's a really simple formula. Business plan. our city needs the business plan. That's known. We need to have transparency in our budget. And all of those things will build up confidence. I did my MBA, completed it just 2 years ago. I was exposed to the entrepreneurship world within the city of Ottawa. It is phenomenal. We have so many bright minds. We need to engage them, not only to do businesses, but to help us run our city better. And they want to help, and there's so many opportunities. I've been just listening to the other potential candidates here. I'm inspired because I see the passion and I see the openness to be collaborative, and it's exciting. It's exciting times for Ottawa.
Thank you very much, Pat. And to Allan Hubley from Canada South. Allan, how do we inspire confidence for investors and entrepreneurs?
Thanks, Rick. I think Pat just hit on a number of good points. I just want to correct something that was said earlier. In reference to the Hazeldean Mall, yes, the world of retail is changing, but as councillors, you will know that that's private property. So you cannot go in and tell the owner of the Hazeldean Mall to convert to housing. What you can do is be there to help them. So the zoning is in place, so they choose to build condominiums or apartments above that mall, but it's up to them whether they want to do that. So don't go into council with any illusion that you're going to start going around telling property owners what to do with their private property. Also, Canada South is home to one of the largest seniors community where they can age at home. It's known as Pine Hill. I invite anybody that hasn't been to Canada South to check it out. It's quite an amazing community with a lot of seniors, and they're thriving in that community. So the other thing we can do, to go back to your question about how we can help, I think it goes back to what was said earlier about building communities that people want to live in. We have to increase our entertainment factor and offerings in the city. We don't have enough of that. You know, we're talking about the senators possibly moving downtown. That would be a unique opportunity to create a whole entertainment district where they sit today. There's was plans being discussed before Mr. Melnick died to actually do something like that. And I think it's really worth pursuing. But even if we don't do it at that location, we need to do it in other places across the city if we want to attract investment and make this a place where companies can attract that global talent that they're after. I'll go back, Rick, if I may, to at the start, you were talking about the pandemic. I want to give an example of what we can do to help businesses. At the time, you might remember that Ottawa Public Health put a restriction on all restaurants that they had to collect the data of everybody that was coming in the restaurant. And I talked to local restaurant owners. That involved them taking a staff person, and that's what they did for their whole shift, was just get people to sign into a sheet. So at council, I asked OPH, what are you doing with that information? Why do you need that? And they weren't doing anything with it. So they had put a hardship on a whole lot of local businesses for no purpose. There was no use to that data. Nobody was keeping it. It's not stored anywhere. And yet, you know, local restaurants had to put their staff collecting that. Those are the kinds of decisions that we have to protect against. Certainly in the pandemic, a lot of decisions were made in the morning and changed at night because of new information. But as councillors, we've got to be very careful of what staff of the city are doing to local businesses if we want to help them survive and thrive. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much. I had mentioned earlier that I was almost tasked by the Board of Trade not to interact too much, because I might inadvertently agree or disagree or create, but what I will say is we want to keep these conversations. You're all, regardless of election results, you're all clearly community leaders with great ideas, and we can't be preaching for collaboration without also wanting to be collaborative ourselves. So my commitment to this group, you've given us a lot of your time here today, that we want to continue to have dialogue with everybody here, and want to be able to ask more detailed questions, go back and forth, brainstorm a little bit more with all of you from a business community working closely with community leaders. We really do believe that certainly working closely with council, but also working with community leaders is really going to be key to the growth of the city. With that said, I am very conscious of all of your time, and as I said off the top, I'm extremely thankful that you've taken some time to be here with the business community here today. We have a coming up this week, and this is Small Business Week. Wow, right off the top, I should have mentioned that. It is Small Business Week. That was the point of why we're doing this. But again, you get what you get with a volunteer moderator. And get what you pay for. So thank you again on behalf of the Ottawa Board of Trade, on behalf of some of our stakeholders, on behalf of some of our key partners in the community. Thank you all for making some time here today. This will be sent out to membership via email. It'll also be sent, it'll be on the Build Up Ottawa site. You're all welcome to kind of share outbound from there as well to constituents in your riding or out to your voters, and we'll do our best to get your message out as well. You've taken the time to be here. We want to certainly share outbound as much as we can and promote the messages that you brought here today as much as we can. With that said, we'll wrap things up for this session. Coming up for the rest of this week, we still have 2 more where we'll be talking with councillors looking to run in some rural wards and also in south parts of the city. So that's Thursday and Friday this week, and you can look for those on the Build Up Ottawa site. Best of luck to everybody who came here today. I've seen, there's some chat going on, and hey, the collaboration's starting already. So thank you again to everybody. Have a great day. Back to the doors, or back out fixing up signs, or back out doing what we know you need to do. It's going to be a very busy few days. So thank you again for being here. Bye for now, everybody.